The summer sun beat down mercilessly on the Indiana State Fair as Staff Sergeant Maya Chen navigated through crowds of families clutching cotton candy and oversized sodas. Her younger sister, Lily, bounced excitedly beside her, pointing at every ride and game booth they passed. "Come on, Maya. You promised we'd actually have fun today. No military stuff, remember," Lily pleaded, tugging at her sister's arm. Maya forced a smile, trying to shake off the weight of the past 6 months. After her third deployment to Afghanistan and countless hours training new recruits at Fort Benning, this weekend leave was supposed to be about reconnecting with family, about being normal for just 48 hours. But normal felt like a foreign language she'd forgotten how to speak. They rounded a corner, and Lily's attention immediately locked onto a shooting gallery booth decorated with faded carnival lights and rows of stuffed animals. A hand-painted sign proclaimed, "Test your aim. Win big prizes." 3 young men in their early 20s clustered around the counter, their loud voices cutting through the ambient noise of the fair. The ringleader, a muscular guy in a backwards baseball cap and a tank top that showed off his gym-sculpted arms, was holding a rifle with all the grace of someone wielding a broom. "Watch this, boys," he shouted, squinting down the barrel before jerking the trigger. The pellet sailed wide, missing the target by at least 6 inches. His friends erupted in laughter, slapping his back. "Dude, you suck," one of them called out, bare heavy breath visible even from several feet away. "It's the rifle, man. Thing's rigged," the shooter protested, slamming the gun down on the counter. The booth operator, a thin man with a cigarette dangling from his lips and a smirk that suggested he'd heard every excuse imaginable, simply shrugged. $3, 3 shots. Everyone gets the same equipment, Chief." Maya slowed her pace, her professional eye automatically assessing the setup. The rifles were clearly cheap .177 caliber air rifles, the kind you'd find at any discount store. But something was off. The front sight on the rifle the man had just used was visibly bent, canted at least 15 degrees to the left. The rear sight wasn't much better. These weren't just cheap weapons, they were deliberately sabotaged. "Maya, let's try something else," Lily suggested, sensing her sister's shift in demeanor. But it was too late. The ringleader had noticed them watching. "Hey, look," he called out loudly, elbowing his friends. "We got an audience. Check out the ladies scoping out the shooting gallery." His eyes traveled over Maya with undisguised mockery. She was dressed simply in jeans and a plain navy blue t-shirt, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Nothing about her screamed soldier. Nothing gave away the countless hours she'd spent on firing ranges across 3 continents. "This ain't a makeup counter, sweetheart," one of his buddies added, and the group dissolved into laughter that attracted curious looks from passers-by. Maya felt Lily tense beside her, ready to fire back, but she placed a calming hand on her sister's shoulder. "It's fine," she said quietly. "It's not fine," Lily hissed. "These idiots." "Maybe the little lady wants to try her luck," the booth operator called out, clearly seeing an opportunity for more business. He pulled forward another rifle from beneath the counter, this one even more obviously damaged. The stock was cracked, and the barrel had a slight bend that Maya could see from 10 feet away. The ringleader leaned against the counter, his smirk widening. "Yeah, come on. $3, 3 shots, but fair warning, this is man's work. Maybe stick to the ring toss, or the duck pond. I hear they got some real cute prizes over there." His friends howled with laughter, drawing more attention. A small crowd was beginning to form, sensing entertainment. Maya felt the familiar calm settling over her, the same sensation she experienced before every shot that mattered. Her heart rate slowed. Her breathing deepened. She'd faced Taliban fighters, trained soldiers who couldn't hit a target if their lives depended on it, and endured countless condescending comments from men who assumed a woman couldn't master a weapon. She stepped forward. "Maya, you don't have to prove anything to these jerks," Lily whispered urgently. But Maya was already reaching for her wallet, pulling out 3 crisp dollar bills. 3 shots, she said calmly, placing the money on the counter. The booth operator's smirk widened as he slid the damaged rifle toward her. Your funeral, honey, but don't say I didn't warn you. The ringleader leaned in close, his breath reeking of cheap beer. Seriously, lady, drop the toy before you embarrass yourself. This ain't as easy as it looks on TV. Maya picked up the rifle, her trained hands immediately cataloging every flaw, every imperfection, every deliberate sabotage. She looked up at the targets, calculating distances and angles with the precision of someone who'd done this thousands of times under far worse conditions. Behind her, unnoticed by everyone, a man in civilian clothes carrying a black hard case had stopped walking. Chief Petty Officer Jake Morrison stood perfectly still, his experienced eyes watching the woman's stance, her grip, her focus. And he smiled, because he knew exactly what was about to happen. Chief Petty Officer Jake Morrison had been enjoying his first real day off in 8 months. After running advanced sniper training courses for SEAL team candidates at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, he'd flown home to Indiana for his mother's 60th birthday. The state fair had been her idea, a nostalgic trip back to the summers of his childhood, when everything seemed simpler, and the biggest challenge was winning a goldfish in a plastic bag. He'd been heading toward the exit, ready to meet his family at the parking lot when something made him stop. Call it instinct, call it 20 years of training, but Jake had learned to trust that little voice in his head that said, "Pay attention." And right now, that voice was screaming. The woman at the shooting gallery had caught his eye immediately, though not for the reasons the drunken idiots thought they were so clever about. Jake had spent 2 decades identifying talent, spotting the difference between someone who'd held a gun and someone who'd mastered one. And this woman, this quiet, unassuming woman being mocked by fools, moved like a professional. Her stance was perfect. Feet shoulder-width apart, weight balanced evenly on both legs, knees slightly bent for stability. When she'd picked up that deliberately damaged rifle, her hands had moved with practiced efficiency, checking the action, testing the trigger pull, examining the sights with the kind of attention to detail that only came from extensive training. She wasn't just familiar with firearms, she was intimate with them. Jake set down his half-eaten corn dog and moved closer, weaving through the growing crowd of onlookers. His trained eye caught details others missed. The calluses on her hands, visible even from several feet away, were positioned exactly where they'd be from countless hours of shooting. Thumb, trigger finger, and the heel of her palm where it would press against a rifle stock. Her right shoulder sat slightly lower than her left, a telltale sign of someone who'd spent years absorbing recoil. But it was her eyes that confirmed his suspicions. They weren't looking at the targets with hope or nervousness. They were calculating distance, wind speed, trajectory, equipment malfunction compensation. Jake had seen that look 1,000 times in the mirror and in the faces of his best students. "This is gonna be good," he muttered to himself, a smile tugging at his lips. The ringleader was still running his mouth, emboldened by his friends and the attention of the crowd. "Seriously, sweetheart, just put it down. You're gonna hurt yourself or someone else. These things got a kick, you know." He flexed his biceps dramatically, drawing laughs from his buddies. Jake's jaw tightened. He'd served with women who could outshoot 90% of the men he'd trained. He'd watched female Marines put rounds through targets at distances that would make most civilians weep. He'd personally certified 3 women for SEAL sniper training support roles, and every single one of them had performed flawlessly under combat conditions. This kind of casual, ignorant sexism made his blood boil. The woman, Jake desperately wished he knew her name, raised the rifle slowly, settling it against her shoulder with the kind of smooth, practiced motion that takes years to develop. Her breathing changed, becoming deeper and more controlled. She was entering what shooters called the zone, that mental space where nothing existed except you, the weapon, and the target. "Oh man, she's actually gonna try." One of the hecklers laughed, pulling out his phone to record. "This is gonna be YouTube gold." Several other phones appeared in the crowd, cameras pointed at the woman. Jake felt a flash of anger on her behalf. These people had no idea what they were about to witness. They thought they were recording someone's humiliation. Instead, they were about to document something entirely different. The booth operator leaned back against his cash box, that same infuriating smirk on his face. "Whenever you're ready, honey, take your time. It's harder than it looks." Jake noticed the woman's younger companion, sister, maybe, based on the similar facial features, looking worried. She touched the shooter's arm gently. "Maya, you don't have to do this. Let's just go." Maya, the name clicked something in Jake's memory. Maya Chen. It couldn't be. He'd heard that name in professional circles, whispered with respect among Army marksmanship instructors. Staff Sergeant Maya Chen from Fort Benning, the designated marksman instructor whose students consistently posted the highest qualification scores in the entire Army. The woman who'd turned down multiple offers to join competitive shooting circuits because she was too busy training the next generation. If this was that Maya Chen, these idiots had just made the worst mistake of their lives. Jake's hand moved to the hard rifle case at his feet. He'd brought his personal competition rifle to show his nephew, a custom-built Barrett MRAD that had cost him more than his first car. It was equipped with a Schmidt and Bender scope that cost as much as some people's monthly rent, and he'd personally hand-loaded every round of ammunition in the box. He'd planned to let his nephew hold it, maybe take a few supervised shots at his friend's private range tomorrow. But watching this circus unfold, watching this woman being ridiculed by men who couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, Jake felt a different plan forming. The ringleader noticed Jake watching and misread his attention. "Hey man, you want to put some money on this? I got $20 says she doesn't hit a single target." Jake's smile was cold and predatory. "I've got a better idea," he said, his voice carrying the quiet authority that made SEAL candidates straighten their spines. He stepped forward, and the crowd parted instinctively, recognizing something dangerous in his calm demeanor. He set the rifle case on the counter, with a solid thunk that made the booth operator jump. "How about we make this actually interesting?" The atmosphere around the shooting gallery shifted instantly. All eyes locked onto the matte black rifle case Jake had placed on the counter. It was the kind of case that serious shooters recognized immediately, reinforced, weatherproof, with heavy-duty latches and a subtle manufacturer's logo that whispered quality rather than shouted it. The booth operator's smirk faltered. "Sir, I don't know what you've got in there, but our insurance only covers the equipment we provide." "Your equipment is sabotaged garbage," Jake interrupted, his voice level but carrying an edge that made the man step back. "Those sights are deliberately misaligned, the barrels are bent, and you're charging people $3 for an impossible game." He turned to face the ringleader, whose bravado was beginning to crack around the edges. "But you don't care about fair, do you? You just wanted to show off for your friends and put down a woman who never did anything to you." The crowd had swelled to at least 40 people now, forming a semicircle around the booth. Phones were everywhere, recording every second. Someone muttered, "This is getting real," and nervous laughter rippled through the onlookers. Jake flipped open the latches on his case with practiced precision. The sound, click, 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 was somehow ominous in the tension-filled silence. He lifted the lid slowly, revealing the custom Barrett MRAD nestled in foam cutouts like a precious artifact. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Even people who knew nothing about firearms could recognize the difference between this precision instrument and the carnival prizes on the counter. The rifle's desert tan finish gleamed under the fair lights. The massive scope mounted on top looked like something from a science fiction movie. Every line, every angle screamed purpose and power. "Holy shit," one of the heckler's friends breathed, his phone shaking in his hands. Jake lifted the rifle carefully, checking it over with the automatic movements of someone who'd handled weapons for decades. "This is a Barrett MRAD in 6.5 Creedmoor," he said conversationally, though his voice carried to the entire crowd. Custom barrel, Timney trigger set at 2 pounds, Schmidt and Bender scope. Total value, somewhere north of $15,000. He let that number sink in, watching greed and fear war on the ringleader's face. "I'll make you gentlemen a proposition," Jake continued, his tone dangerously friendly. "If any of you can hit 3 targets in a row at 50 yards with this rifle, which is perfectly sighted and maintained, I'll give you $1,000 cash. Right here, right now." He pulled his wallet from his back pocket and fanned out 10 crisp $100 bills. The crowd erupted in excited murmurs. The ringleader's eyes locked onto the money with laser focus, his earlier mockery forgotten. "You're serious? $1,000 bucks?" "Dead serious," Jake confirmed. "But here's the catch. When you fail, and you will fail, you're going to apologize to this lady here." He gestured toward Maya, who was watching the scene unfold with an expression Jake couldn't quite read. "Publicly. On video. And then you're going to walk away and think real hard about why you felt the need to tear down a stranger to make yourself feel big." The ringleader's jaw clenched. His friends were nudging him, whispering encouragement. "Man, take the bet. Easy money." The crowd was chanting now, a low rhythmic "do it, do it, do it." That made the moment feel surreal. "Fine," the ringleader snapped, reaching for the rifle. "This is gonna be the easiest grand I ever made." Jake held the weapon back for just a moment. "You understand this is a legally binding verbal contract, witnessed by," he gestured at the crowd, "about 50 people with cameras. You hit 3 targets, you get the money. You miss, you apologize, agreed?" Yeah, whatever, give me the gun." Jake handed over the rifle and stepped back, catching Maya's eye for just a second. She was watching him with a mixture of curiosity and understanding, as if she'd figured out exactly what he was doing and approved. Her sister looked confused but excited, bouncing on her toes. The booth operator set up 3 standard targets at 50 yards, simple paper circles with bullseyes, nothing fancy. The ringleader settled into what he probably thought was a shooting stance, but Jake could see a dozen problems immediately. His grip was too tight, his shoulders were hunched, his breathing was erratic, and he was already squinting through the scope like he was trying to read fine print. The first shot cracked out and the ringleader jerked backward from the recoil, nearly dropping the rifle. The bullet hit dirt at least 3 feet below the target. The crowd groaned. Hang on, I wasn't ready," the ringleader protested, his face reddening. "You have 2 more shots," Jake said calmly. "Take your time." The second shot was even worse, sailing wide to the left and disappearing into the fairground somewhere beyond the backstop. The booth operator looked genuinely alarmed. "Jesus, be careful with that thing." For the third shot, the ringleader tried to overcompensate, pulling the rifle so hard to the right that his shot hit the wooden frame of the booth instead of anywhere near the target. Splinters flew, and someone in the crowd yelped. Jake retrieved his rifle before the man could damage it further, checking it over with the care of a parent inspecting an injured child. Satisfied it was unharmed, he turned to Maya, who'd been watching the spectacle with barely concealed amusement. "Staff Sergeant," he said quietly, making it a question and a statement at once. Maya's eyebrows rose slightly. "Chief Petty Officer," she replied, reading him just as easily. Jake extended the rifle toward her, grip first, in the universal gesture of respect between warriors. "Would you care to show these gentlemen how it's actually done?" The crowd went absolutely wild. Maya's hands trembled, not from fear or nervousness, but from the surge of adrenaline that always came before a shot that mattered. She'd felt this exact sensation dozens of times before, in the mountains of Kandahar, on the dusty ranges of Fort Benning, in the freezing darkness of a classified operation she'd never be allowed to discuss. This was different, though. This wasn't about survival or duty. This was about respect. She accepted the rifle from Jake's hands, feeling the perfect balance immediately. This wasn't just an expensive weapon, it was a masterpiece. Every component had been selected and fitted with obsessive attention to detail. The kind of rifle that extended a shooter's capabilities rather than limiting them. Maya, is this really a good idea? Lily whispered urgently, gripping her sister's arm. That thing probably costs more than your car. Maya smiled softly. My car cost $800 and doesn't have working air conditioning. Everything costs more than my car. She ran her fingers along the rifle's barrel, feeling the precision machining, the perfect smoothness. Don't worry, Lil. I've got this. But Lily didn't understand. How could she? Maya had never told her family the full truth about her 3 deployments. Her parents knew she'd been to Afghanistan, knew she'd come back with commendations and a promotion. But they didn't know about the convoy ambush outside Kandahar, where she'd held off 15 Taliban fighters for 47 minutes while her unit evacuated wounded. They didn't know about the night mission in Helmand province, where her single shot from 847 meters had saved an entire platoon from walking into an ambush. They definitely didn't know that she still woke up some nights with her heart racing, her hands reaching for a weapon that wasn't there, her mind calculating range and windage for threats that existed only in memory. Maya Chen had learned to shoot at age 12 when her grandfather, a Vietnam veteran, had taken her to a range outside Indianapolis. While other girls her age were discovering makeup and boys, Maya was discovering the meditative focus of marksmanship, the way the entire world could narrow down to breathing and trigger pressure, and the tiny moment between decision and action. By 16, she was winning junior competitions across 3 states. By 18, she'd enlisted in the Army, turning down a college scholarship because something in her needed to serve, to be part of something larger than herself. By 23, she'd completed her first deployment as a designated marksman attached to a combat infantry unit. That deployment had changed everything. She discovered she had a gift, not just for shooting but for the mental game that separated good shooters from exceptional ones. While other soldiers struggled with the pressure, the chaos, the weight of knowing their shot might mean the difference between life and death, Maya found clarity. The worse the situation, the calmer she became. Her second deployment had been different. They'd sent her to train Afghan National Army soldiers, teaching them the fundamentals of marksmanship in a country where ammunition was precious and patience was rare. She'd learned to teach, to break down complex skills into digestible pieces, to identify each student's unique challenges and find ways to overcome them. When she'd returned stateside, Fort Benning had recruited her immediately for their marksmanship training unit. At 26, she'd become one of the youngest senior instructors in the program's history. For the past 3 years, she'd trained over 2,000 soldiers, watching them arrive as nervous recruits and leave as confident marksmen. Her students' qualification scores were consistently 30% higher than the Army average. Other instructors sent her their problem cases, soldiers who couldn't seem to hit anything, who flinched at the rifle's crack, who psyched themselves out before ever touching the trigger. Maya fixed them, every single one. But success had its price. She'd turned down positions with Army Marksmanship Unit's competitive shooting team 3 times. She declined lucrative offers from private military contractors. She'd even been approached by Olympic shooting coaches who'd heard about the Chen girl who never misses. She'd said no to all of it. Because teaching mattered more. Every soldier she trained might one day need those skills to stay alive, to bring their friends home, to complete a mission that saved lives. That mattered more than medals or money or fame. Now, standing at a cheap carnival shooting gallery with a crowd of strangers watching and 3 drunken idiots learning a lesson they desperately needed, Maya felt that familiar calm settling over her like a comfortable coat. She glanced at Jake, who was watching her with the kind of professional assessment she recognized immediately. He knew. Somehow, he knew exactly who she was, what she could do. The question in his eyes wasn't whether she could make the shots, it was whether she would choose to. Maya looked at the targets, then at the ringleader, who was trying to salvage his dignity by claiming the rifle was defective, or too powerful, or making some other excuse his friends were already laughing at. She looked at the booth operator, who'd made his living scamming people with rigged equipment. She looked at the crowd, dozens of phones recording, waiting to see what would happen next. Finally, she looked at Lily, who was watching her with a mixture of anxiety and hope, and something else. Pride, maybe, or curiosity about this side of her sister she'd never really seen before. Maya raised the rifle, settling it against her shoulder with the practiced ease of 10,000 repetitions. The weight felt right. The balance felt perfect. The scope's clarity was stunning. 3 targets, she asked Jake quietly. He smiled, a predator's smile. Let's make it interesting. Show them something they've never seen before. Maya's finger found the trigger, and the world fell away. Maya's breathing slowed automatically, falling into the rhythm she'd practiced so many times it had become as natural as her heartbeat. 4 seconds in through the nose, hold for 2, 6 seconds out through the mouth. The noise of the crowd faded to a distant hum, then disappeared entirely. The flashing lights of the carnival rides blurred into abstract colors at the edge of her vision. Even Lily's nervous presence beside her became just another piece of background data, noted and filed away. All that existed was the rifle, the target, and the space between them. The first target was a standard bullseye, roughly 8 inches in diameter at 50 yards. Child's play for someone with Maya's training, even accounting for the unpredictable crosswinds that swept through the fairground, carrying the smell of fried food and the distant screams from the roller coaster. She made a microscopic adjustment to her stance, feeling the rifle settle into the pocket of her shoulder like it belonged there. Her cheek pressed against the stock with exactly the right pressure, firm enough for stability, light enough to avoid tension. Through the scope's pristine glass, the target appeared close enough to touch, the rings of the bullseye sharp and clear. Maya's finger caressed the trigger with the gentleness of someone handling something fragile and precious. She taught thousands of soldiers that the trigger press was everything. Not a pull, not a jerk, but a gradual increase of pressure so smooth that the actual moment of firing should almost come as a surprise. The rifle barked, the sound sharp and authoritative, nothing like the pathetic pop of the booth's air rifles. The recoil pushed back against her shoulder, but she rode it smoothly, already cycling the bolt before the sound had finished echoing across the fairground. At the target, a perfect hole appeared dead center in the bullseye. The crowd's chatter died as if someone had flipped a switch. The sudden silence was so complete that Maya could hear the distant calliope music from the carousel 3 aisles over, could hear someone's phone notification ding, could hear the ringleader's sharp intake of breath. She didn't acknowledge the hit, didn't celebrate, didn't smile, didn't break her focus. She simply transitioned to the second target with the fluid efficiency of a machine built for one purpose. The booth operator, sensing that his usual script wasn't going to work here, scrambled to set up something more challenging. With shaking hands, he clipped a standard playing card, the 7 of diamonds, to a clothespin 50 yards downrange. The card was maybe 2.5 inches wide, and the wind immediately caught it, making it flutter and spin. That's impossible," someone in the crowd murmured. "It's moving." Maya tracked the card's movement through her scope, her mind automatically calculating the pattern. It wasn't random. Wind never was. The card fluttered left for approximately 1.2 seconds, then right for 0.8 seconds, a rhythm dictated by the breeze channeling between the booth structures. She waited, breathing, watching, her finger resting on the trigger with feather-light pressure. The moment came, that perfect instant where calculation met opportunity, where all the variables aligned. Maya pressed the trigger. The playing card exploded into confetti, pieces of it fluttering down like snow. But more impressive was where she'd hit it. The 7 of diamonds now had a hole punched through one of the diamond symbols in the center, a shot so precise it looked photoshopped. A woman in the crowd gasped. Several people applauded involuntarily, then stopped, as if they'd forgotten this was supposed to be entertainment and had stumbled into watching something far more serious. The ringleader's face had gone from red to pale white. His mouth opened and closed wordlessly, like a fish drowning in air. His friends had stopped their supportive chatter entirely, suddenly very interested in their phones or the ground or anything, except the woman making them look like fools. "One more," Jake said quietly, his voice carrying a note of something that might have been pride or satisfaction or both. The booth operator was sweating now, actual beads of perspiration running down his temples despite the evening breeze. His hands shook as he reached into a box beneath his counter and pulled out his impossible challenge. The shot he'd set up years ago as a joke, never expecting anyone to even attempt it. It was a dime, 10 cents, less than 3/4 of an inch in diameter, suspended on nearly invisible fishing line about chest height, 50 yards downrange. The evening breeze made it spin slowly, catching the light from the booth's string of bulbs, creating tiny glints of silver in the growing dusk. "Nobody's ever hit that," the booth operator said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've run this booth for 12 years and nobody's even come close. It's not possible with the wind and the distance and—" "How much?" Maya interrupted, her voice steady and calm. "What? How much if I hit it?" The operator laughed nervously. "Ma'am, I'll give you every prize in this booth if you can hit that dime. Hell, I'll give you the booth." Maya's lips curved into the smallest smile. Through her scope, she tracked the spinning coin, watching how the fishing line caught the breeze, how the dime's rotation created a predictable wobble. She could see the tiny imperfections in the coin's edge, could see Roosevelt's profile when it spun just right. This was the shot people would remember, the one they'd talk about, the one that would end up on social media with all-caps titles and shocked emoji reactions. Maya had made harder shots, much harder shots, under conditions these people couldn't imagine, but this one would matter because everyone was watching. She cleared her mind of everything except the fundamentals: breathing, position, sight picture, trigger press. The world held its breath. Maya exhaled slowly and squeezed. The crack of the rifle was followed immediately by a tiny, almost musical ping, the unmistakable sound of a bullet striking metal. The dime spun violently on its line for a moment, then fell, the fishing line severed cleanly. For 3 full seconds nobody moved, nobody breathed, nobody spoke. Then the fairground exploded. The eruption of noise was overwhelming. The crowd surged forward, everyone shouting at once, phones thrust high to capture every angle. Someone started a chant of "Holy shit, holy shit," that half the crowd picked up immediately. A teenage boy was jumping up and down, screaming, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" to anyone who would listen. The booth operator stood frozen, staring downrange at the fallen dime like it represented the end of everything he'd understood about physics. Jake stepped forward smoothly, his body language protective as he positioned himself between Maya and the pressing crowd. He retrieved his rifle with practiced care, checking it over with the attention of a jeweler examining a diamond. Satisfied it was unharmed, he engaged the safety and returned it to its case with reverent precision. "Give her some space," Jake said firmly, his voice carrying the kind of authority that made people obey without thinking about it. The crowd reluctantly stepped back a few feet, though phones remained raised, still recording every moment. Maya had already stepped away from the shooting line, her professional demeanor back in place, as if she just completed a routine qualification at the base range, rather than performed what would probably become the most-watched shooting video on the internet within the next 12 hours. She handed the rifle back to Jake with a nod of thanks, her hands steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her system. "Staff Sergeant Maya Chen," Jake said quietly, making it a statement rather than a question this time. "Fort Benning Marksmanship Training Unit, 2 Bronze Stars, Army Commendation Medal with Valor Device, 3 combat deployments." He extended his hand formally. Chief Petty Officer Jake Morrison, SEAL Team Sniper Instructor. It's an honor, ma'am. Maya shook his hand firmly, recognizing the calluses and grip strength of someone who lived with weapons the way she did. You did your homework, Chief. Your reputation precedes you, Jake replied with a slight smile. I've been trying to get the Navy to approve cross-training with your unit for the past 8 months. Your students' qualification scores are legendary. 30% higher pass rates than the Army average, and your advanced shooters consistently outperform even Marine Scout Sniper graduates in long-range accuracy. You're exaggerating, Maya said, but there was a hint of pleased surprise in her voice. I'm really not. I pulled the data. Jake's expression turned more serious. There are maybe 24 people in the entire U.S. military who could have made that last shot under these conditions. You made it look easy. Around them, the crowd was still buzzing with excitement. Videos were already being uploaded with captions like "Woman DSTROYS, HECKLERS at fair," and "Female soldiers insane shooting SKILLS." The ringleader and his friends had vanished completely, slipping away during the chaos like cockroaches when the lights came on. Lily pushed through the crowd to grab Maya's arm, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and pride. Maya, that was. I mean, I knew you were good, but I didn't know you were that good. You never told me you could shoot like that. You never asked, Maya said with a gentle smile, pulling her sister into a brief hug. The booth operator approached nervously, wringing his hands. He looked like a man who just watched his entire worldview collapse. Ma'am, that was. He gestured helplessly at his booth full of oversized stuffed animals. I meant what I said. Every prize here is yours. All of them, please, I insist. Maya glanced at the collection of cheap carnival prizes and shook her head. I don't need any of these, but I do need you to do something for me. Anything, the operator said desperately. Fix your equipment, all of it. Maya's voice was gentle but firm. Stop cheating people. Give everyone who comes to your booth a fair chance. Straighten those sights, replace the bent barrels, make it an honest game. Can you do that? The operator nodded vigorously, shame coloring his features. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, ma'am. Starting tomorrow, I swear. Tonight, Maya corrected. You've got tools in that box under your counter. I saw them. Start tonight. Yes, ma'am, right away. As the operator scurried to begin his penance, Jake caught Maya's attention again. I meant what I said about the cross-training, but I actually have another proposition for you if you're interested. Maya raised an eyebrow, curious. Jake pulled a business card from his wallet but hesitated before handing it over. I'm organizing a military charity shooting competition in 12 weeks. Multi-service event, SEALs, Rangers, Marine Scout Snipers, Special Forces. We're demonstrating various shooting disciplines for civilian attendees and raising money for veteran support organizations. Wounded Warrior Project, Operation Homefront, local PTSD treatment programs. Sounds like a good cause, Maya said carefully, sensing there was more. We need someone to run the precision rifle segment. Someone who can shoot at a championship level but also explain the techniques in a way civilians can understand. Jake's expression was earnest. Someone who's used to teaching, who knows how to break down complex skills, who can represent what military marksmanship training is really about. Lily bounced excitedly. Maya, you have to do it. This is perfect for you. But Maya was already thinking through the logistics, the professional considerations. I'd need to clear it with my commanding officer, get leave approved, make sure it doesn't conflict with training schedules. Jake's smile widened into a grin that was almost mischievous. Funny you should mention that. I called Lieutenant Colonel Morrison at Fort Benning about an hour ago. Maya blinked. You what? Your co. We served together in Iraq back in '09. He was a captain then, I was a petty officer first class. When I told him what I was planning, he was enthusiastic. Actually, his exact words were, about damn time someone got Chen out from behind the training line and showed the world what she can do. Jake extended the business card. He already approved your leave. Said you've got too much accumulated time off anyway, and he's been trying to get you to take a break for months. Maya stared at the business card in Jake's hand like it might explode. You called my before even asking me. There was a note of incredulity in her voice that made Lily step back slightly, recognizing the edge that appeared when her sister felt her control slipping. Jake didn't flinch. I did, and before you get angry, let me explain why. He gestured to the crowd still surrounding them, phones still recording, people still talking excitedly about what they'd witnessed. In about 3 hours, maybe less, the videos from tonight are going to go viral. You'll have millions of views by morning. News outlets will pick it up. You'll get interview requests, maybe even talk show invitations. I don't want any of that, Maya said firmly. I know you don't. That's exactly why I'm offering you this. Jake tapped the business card still in his hand. The charity event gives you a way to control the narrative. Instead of being woman who embarrassed drunk guys at carnival, which is how social media will frame this, you become decorated Army instructor supporting veteran causes. You get to define who you are and what this means. Maya was quiet for a moment, processing. Around them, the crowd was beginning to disperse, though several people lingered, hopping for autographs or selfies. The booth operator was already taking apart his rifles, true to his word, examining the sights with newfound seriousness. Lily tugged on Maya's sleeve. He's got a point, you know. You always tell me that if you don't tell your own story, someone else will tell it for you. That's actually pretty wise, Jake said, impressed. I teach high school English, Lily replied with a grin. We cover narrative control in the media literacy unit. Maya took the business card finally, studying it in the glow of the carnival lights. It was simple, professional, Jake's name, rank, phone number, and email. At the bottom, in smaller print, supporting those who served. She turned it over. On the back, someone had written in neat handwriting, November 15th, Quantico Marine Base, 800 hours. 3 months, Maya said quietly. That's not much time to prepare. You've been preparing your whole career, Jake countered. This isn't about training. This is about showing up and being yourself. We need someone who can demonstrate precision rifle techniques for an audience that ranges from experienced shooters to people who have never touched a gun. We need someone who understands that shooting is about discipline, patience, and respect, not just pulling a trigger. A young girl, maybe 10 years old, pushed through the remaining crowd with her father close behind. She stopped in front of Maya, eyes wide with admiration. Excuse me, ma'am, are you really a soldier? Maya knelt down to the girl's eye level, her expression softening immediately. I am. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States Army. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen, the girl breathed. How did you learn to shoot like that? Lots of practice. Years and years of practice. And good teachers who believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. Could I learn to do that someday? Maya smiled warmly. You can do anything you set your mind to. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, not ever. The girl's father stepped forward and Maya recognized him immediately. It was the ringleader from earlier, though he looked completely different now. The cocky arrogance had been stripped away, replaced by something that looked like genuine shame and humility. He was sober now too, or at least sobering up, his eyes clearer though rimmed with embarrassment. Ma'am, he said, his voice rough, I owe you an apology, a real one, not just because I lost a bet. He glanced at his daughter, who was watching him carefully. I was showing off, being an idiot, and I said things that were disrespectful and wrong. My daughter shouldn't have to see her dad act like that. Nobody should. He pulled out his wallet and extracted a check, already filled out. I'm donating $500 to whatever charity you want. It's not enough to make up for being a jackass, but it's a start. Maya stood, accepting the check and examining it. It was made out to Wounded Warrior Project in neat handwriting. She looked at the man, really looked at him, and saw someone genuinely trying to do better. Apology accepted, she said simply, and thank you for this. It'll help a lot of people. The man nodded, relieved, and guided his daughter away. But the girl turned back one more time. "I'm gonna practice really hard," she called out. "Maybe someday I'll be as good as you." "I hope you're even better," Maya called back. Jake watched the exchange with approval. "You're a natural teacher. The crowd loves you, you handle pressure perfectly, and you just turned a potential enemy into an ally." He nodded toward his business card still in her hand. "So what do you say? November 15th, Quantico. Precision rifle demonstration. Meet some of the best shooters in the military and help raise money for veterans who need it. Your co already approved it. Your sister clearly thinks you should do it." "I really, really do," Lily interjected enthusiastically. Maya looked at the card again, then at the crowd that was still lingering, still watching her with a mixture of respect and curiosity. She thought about the videos already spreading across the internet, about the narrative being written whether she participated or not. She thought about the little girl who'd asked if she could learn to shoot, about the father trying to set a better example. Most of all, she thought about what Jake had said: too much talent hidden on a teaching range. "The event is 3 months away," Maya asked. "November 15th, 12 weeks from Saturday." "What's the pay?" Jake grimaced slightly. "Honestly, it's a charity event, so mostly travel expenses and per diem. Maybe a small honorarium. Nobody's getting rich here." "I don't need to get rich. I need to know the logistics." Maya's mind was already working through the details, planning and organizing the way she approached every mission. "What's the format? How many shooters? What kind of audience size are we expecting? What equipment do I need to bring?" Jake's grin spread across his face like sunrise. "Does that mean you're in?" Maya looked at Lily, who was practically vibrating with excitement. She looked at the booth operator, who was carefully straightening rifle sights with newfound dedication. She looked at the spot where the dime had fallen, where she'd made an impossible shot look routine. "I'm in," Maya said finally, "but I have conditions." "Name them." "First, I control my own equipment and ammunition. Second, no media interviews without my explicit approval. Third," she smiled slightly, "you teach me something about SEAL sniper techniques I don't already know." Jake laughed and extended his hand. "Deal, all 3 conditions. Welcome to the team, Staff Sergeant Chen." They shook hands as Lily squealed with excitement, and the remaining crowd applauded. Somewhere in the distance, a phone notification dinged as the first video hit 1 million views. The real mission was just beginning. 3 months passed in a blur of preparation, viral fame, and unexpected opportunities. The carnival video exploded across every social media platform, racking up over 50 million views in the first week alone. News outlets from CNN to Fox News requested interviews. Talk shows called. A gun manufacturer offered Maya a 6-figure endorsement deal. A reality TV producer pitched a show called America's Top Shot, with Maya as the host and judge. She declined everything except one carefully selected interview with NPR, where she spoke for 12 minutes about the importance of marksmanship training, military readiness, and supporting veterans. She redirected every conversation away from herself and toward the charity event at Quantico. Now, standing on the immaculate firing line at the Marine Corps Base Quantico Ranges, Maya watched the crowd assemble with a mixture of pride and nervousness she hadn't felt since her first combat deployment. Over 200 people had paid the admission fee: retired military, active duty service members, competitive shooters, firearms enthusiasts, and families who'd seen the viral video and wanted to witness excellence in person. The morning sun glinted off the polished brass of ceremonial markers along the range. American flags snapped in the crisp November breeze. Behind the firing line, vendors had set up booths for various veteran support organizations. The atmosphere was part military demonstration, part county fair, part solemn memorial to those who'd served. Jake approached in his dress uniform, medals gleaming on his chest. Beside him walked a Marine gunnery sergeant, an Army Ranger captain, and a Special Forces Master Sergeant, some of the finest shooters in the U.S. military. They'd spent the morning demonstrating various shooting disciplines. Jake had shown tactical sniper techniques, the Marine had demonstrated rapid-fire accuracy, the Ranger had explained ballistic calculations, and the SF Master Sergeant had covered field-expedient shooting positions. Now it was Maya's turn. "You ready?" Jake asked quietly, handing her a wireless microphone. Maya nodded, surprised to find that she actually was ready. More than ready. She prepared a demonstration that would showcase precision rifle fundamentals in a way that educated rather than just entertained. She'd brought her personal rifle, a custom-built platform similar to what she used for training, and had spent hours preparing explanatory materials that were now displayed on large screens beside the firing line. She stepped up to the podium, and the crowd quieted immediately. "Good morning," Maya began, her voice steady and clear through the speaker system. "I'm Staff Sergeant Maya Chen, United States Army Marksmanship Training Unit, Fort Benning. For the past 3 years, I've had the privilege of training over 2,000 soldiers in rifle marksmanship. Some of you may have seen a video of me shooting at a carnival a few months ago." Laughter and applause rippled through the crowd. "What that video didn't show," Maya continued, "is the 15 years of training, practice, and dedication that led to that moment. It didn't show the instructors who believed in me when I was a terrible shot. And yes, I was terrible when I started. It didn't show the thousands of hours of practice, the competitions I lost, the targets I missed, the lessons I learned from failure." She paused, letting that sink in. "Today, I'm going to demonstrate precision rifle techniques, but more importantly, I want to talk about what shooting really means. It's not about showing off or proving you're better than someone else. It's about discipline, patience, respect for the weapon, for the target, and for the responsibility that comes with this skill." For the next 45 minutes, Maya walked the crowd through the fundamentals. She demonstrated proper breathing techniques, explaining how a shooter's heartbeat could throw off a shot at long distance. She showed different shooting positions and explained when each was appropriate. She discussed mental preparation, the importance of practice, and how shooting sports could build confidence and discipline in young people. Then came the demonstration everyone was waiting for. Jake had set up a series of increasingly difficult targets: standard bullseyes at 100 yards, playing cards at 200 yards, and finally, a series of steel silhouettes at 300 yards that would fall when hit. Maya worked through them methodically, explaining each shot before taking it, narrating her thought process, making the complex seem accessible. She didn't miss once. As the final steel target clanged down, the crowd erupted in applause. But Maya noticed something more important. People were taking notes. Parents were asking questions about youth shooting programs. Young women were approaching with career questions about military service. This wasn't just entertainment, it was inspiration. Jake joined her at the podium as the applause died down. "Ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant Maya Chen," he announced. "2 Bronze Stars for Valor in Combat, Army Commendation Medal, 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan, and one of the finest marksmanship instructors in the United States Armed Forces." More applause, but Maya raised her hand gently. "I want to share some important numbers with you," she said. "This event, thanks to your attendance and generosity, has raised $253,000. She paused as gasps and applause erupted. "That money will go to Wounded Warrior Project, Operation Homefront, and local PTSD treatment programs for veterans. It will help people who sacrificed everything for our country get the support they need and deserve." That's what today was really about. Not showing off, not breaking records, but serving those who served. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. As Maya began packing her equipment, she noticed the same young girl from the carnival pushing through the crowd, her father close behind. The girl was wearing a Junior Shooting League t-shirt now, and her eyes were shining with determination. "Miss Maya," the girl called out breathlessly. "I joined a shooting club. I've been practicing just like you said." Maya's heart swelled. She knelt down, giving the girl her full attention. "That's wonderful. How's it going?" "I'm getting better. I still miss a lot, but my instructor says I'm improving." The girl's enthusiasm was infectious. "He says the most important thing is to keep practicing and never give up." "Your instructor is absolutely right," Maya said warmly. "And you know what? I still miss shots sometimes too. Everyone does. The key is learning from those misses and trying again." The father stepped forward, and Maya could see he'd changed in the 3 months since the carnival. He looked healthier, more present. "Staff Sergeant Chen, I wanted you to know that night changed something for me. Seeing how you handled everything with such grace, how you turned a negative situation into something positive." He paused, emotion catching in his throat. "I've been sober for 90 days. I started therapy. I'm trying to be the kind of father my daughter deserves." Maya stood and shook his hand firmly. "That takes real courage. I'm proud of you. Keep going." "Thank you," he said simply, his voice thick. "And thank you for this." He gestured to his daughter. "For showing her that women can be strong, skilled, and serve their country. For giving her a role model who doesn't fit the stereotype." As they walked away, Lily appeared at Maya's side, her own eyes suspiciously bright. "You did good, sis. Really good." Jake approached with an envelope. "Your honorarium," he said, handing it over. "It's not much, about $800 after expenses." Maya opened the envelope, looked at the check, then immediately turned and walked to the Wounded Warrior Project booth. She endorsed the check and handed it to the surprised volunteer. "Add this to the total," she said simply. When she returned, Jake was shaking his head with a smile. "You know, most people would have kept that." "I don't need it, they do." Maya began breaking down her rifle with practiced efficiency. "Besides, I already got paid today. Got to teach people something meaningful, got to support a cause I believe in, and got to see a little girl who's found something she's passionate about. That's worth more than $800. A reporter from a military publication approached nervously. "Staff Sergeant Chen, could I ask you one question for our article about today's event?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. "One question." "What do you want people to take away from today? What's the lesson?" Maya thought for a moment, glancing at the crowd that was slowly dispersing, at the veteran support booths doing brisk business, at the young girl in the shooting league shirt who was now demonstrating her stance to her father. "Never judge someone by their appearance or your assumptions about what they can do," Maya said finally. "Give everyone a fair chance. Believe in people's potential. And remember that real strength isn't about putting others down, it's about lifting them up. Whether you're teaching someone to shoot, supporting a veteran struggling with PTSD, or just trying to be a better person than you were yesterday, it all matters. It all makes a difference." The reporter scribbled frantically, then looked up with genuine appreciation. "Thank you, Staff Sergeant, that's perfect." As the sun began to set over Quantico, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Maya finished packing her equipment. Jake appeared one final time, extending his hand. "We raised $250,000, educated hundreds of people, and probably inspired a few future soldiers," he said. "I'd call that a successful operation." "Mission accomplished," Maya agreed, shaking his hand. "So," Jake said with a grin, "same time next year." Maya smiled, shouldering her rifle case and looking out at the range one more time. Somewhere out there, videos from today's event were probably already being uploaded, shared, discussed. But this time the narrative was theirs. This time the story was about service, dedication, and using your gifts to help others. "Same time next year," Maya confirmed. "But next year we aim for 500,000. As she walked toward the parking lot where Lily was waiting, Maya heard the young girl's voice calling out one more time. "I'm gonna practice every day. Maybe next year I can demonstrate too." Maya turned back and gave her a thumbs up. "Keep practicing. Work hard. Listen to your instructors. Who knows, maybe next year you'll be the one teaching everyone something new." The girl beamed, and her father wrapped an arm around her shoulders, both of them waving as Maya departed. 3 months ago, Maya had been mocked at a carnival booth by strangers who knew nothing about her. Today, she'd helped raise $250,000 for veterans, inspired a new generation of shooters, and reminded everyone watching that excellence comes in many forms, and that the quiet professional often has the most to teach. As she climbed into Lily's car, her phone buzzed with a text from her commanding officer. "Proud of you, Chen. Well done." Maya smiled, typed back a simple "thank you, sir," and leaned back in her seat. The toy gun at the carnival had become something far more valuable, a platform for service, an opportunity to give back, and a reminder that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a rifle at all. It's the willingness to stand up, show up, and prove that respect is earned through action, not demanded through arrogance. The end.